here we are. First time we're on our second day, and hopefully going through tonight, but fully operational. Still have some issues with the battery banks. Started out when I first fired it up. It had these 100 amp breakers in here, and they were blowing and causing all kinds of problems, popping. And I didn't think it was going to be a problem, but if something shuts down, it all tries to go through one breaker. And everything's rated for this, so it's 200 amp breakers there now. You can see the sizable difference. Chargers are working. You can hear them running, coming from the solar arrays. What do we got here? 96 volts being made. It's pushing out 22.7 amps, 22.5. We got 90.9 volts, 28 amps are being pushed to the batteries, charging and feeding the house. This one here, hard to read. 76.2, 39.8 amps. Number 4, 92 volts, 0.23, 40 amps. Of course, that goes, that's all being pushed down into the 48 volt bus bar. It goes, before it comes to this area in the chargers, it actually comes in this 100 volt bus, or I should say raceway, before it goes into these breakers each charge controller has, and then it goes into the inverter, and it comes out, and it goes at DC side. It goes through these 80 amp breakers, and then it feeds into the bus bar. And it comes out of the bus, and it goes to two buses over here. I wish I made it like this one on the right, because these are side by side. The buses are, so that negative and positive currents cancel each other out for interference or whatever. And then it comes over, goes into the bottom of the inverters, and here's your set of breakers. There's actually two inverters in each. What they call these are Outback Power Radiant series. They're what they call a low frequency inverter, so they have transformers in them, and they'll take a real huge surge, like your dryers, your washing machines, a welder, a motor. So they're made for all that. And basically they'll start up. This is called the master. As you see there, it's the master. And that master, if it only needs the first one, it only runs that one. If it needs a little more power, it runs the second one. If it needs a little more power, it runs the third. And if it needs a little more power, it runs the fourth. So these are basically all idle. For the most part, I haven't seen it go beyond the first two. It's usually running on one. This is the Mate 3S. This is what controls the inverters and keeps track of the solar arrays and solar chargers. When it comes out of the inverters, it comes down into the electrical raceway for 240 volts, comes over in here, and it comes up to what is the inverter combiner box. So this is where they both come together. All the AC power from all the different inverters comes in here. This right now is on a 30 amp breaker, and that's inverter 1. This is inverter 2. Or you can say 4, since there's actually 4 inverters. So after that, then it heads out of here and it goes to the house, to the to another disconnect before it goes into a switch that goes, and it transfers from either solar or utility, and that switch monitors the power from this inverter. If this inverter shuts down, it automatically goes back over to the utility side. Have problems with that too. I had to order a new control for that switch because I got it supposedly used, but it showed up new, but it was an old vintage, and it only had a 1 second time delay. So right now, when I go from the inverter side back to the what would be the utility, I have a 1 second delay, which is obviously shutting all the lights off for a second, then back on. but I did order a new control so I can get rid of that delay. This is a box that's out here that actually comes from the service panel in the house, so this is always on, and this room has power for lights and whatever. If something was to be serviced in here, you'd still have power coming from the utility to operate this room. And to keep it warm right now, I just have this little heater here controlled by this stat here. There, see the lights flash. Something drew a load quick. You can see it out here in this building because it's so far from the home. Yeah, so of course the banks and the batteries are charging right now. 13 amps going into bank 1, 11.79 amps going into bank 2, and, bank 3. Let's see what we got. That's 91% charge. I don't see anything going in it. And then if you look in these menus, they'll show you this individual cell voltages, which in lithium batteries, you always have to have these cells, the highest and the lowest within the same range, so you don't have a potential fire hazard or whatever. So if they get too spread, or they're too badly discharged, or too high of a charge, it basically shuts down the charge to it, and it also will shut down if there's too much of a load and there's too much going out of it. And that's all because of lithium. Got to be managed way different than a lead acid battery, but they have a lot more horsepower. On this bank, we got bank 4. We got negative 30 amps. So 30 amps is actually going out of that. Maybe the solar array right now backed off. Maybe a cloud went over. But that's picking up a great portion of the load to the house right now. And this one's in standby. And this one's only 4.18 amps. This is where I get my problem with the battery bank. They're not staying balanced with one another. And my understanding is now, when I bought these, what they call battery management systems, they're not meant to be paralleled. So I'm working on solving that issue. But I have to solve that because these banks should be coming down at the same rate and going up at the same rate. So that's kind of a tour of this little shed. You can hear the noise in the background. Yeah, I need to get a little mini split in here so it stays warm in the winter and hot in the summer, or cool in the summer and warm in the winter. That's it. That's my little tour of the battery shed. Thanks for watching.